In today's episode, project manager refuses to accept he hasn't done his job, even when proven wrong. Let me talk to the president. Let's not contact the desk and then wonder why nothing is happening. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. Project manager refuses to accept he hasn't done his job, even when proven wrong. Evening all, everyone has liked my previous posts, so here is another one from a time I was lumped with a hopeless project manager that was, quote, too expensive to end the contract early with. Apparently he had a solid contract for 12 months, if they ended it early he not only got paid the full 12 months but also some extra stuff. I know. I didn't have a say in his hiring. The one thing I had going was that I was the acting director and I technically outruled him. The downside, I was the only sysadmin as well, so at times I had to do things for him because his skills *ked. This was in a school many years ago. We wanted to allow for multiple device work in the room that would allow for Mac or Windows devices to plug in or wireless stream their devices. Despite him being the project manager, he was a classic sit on as and send emails guy. He didn't really do anything. When dealing with the AV company, I was the one who designed the box, layout, and designed the network. We were using Apple TVs, Miracast devices, and Crestron controllers. Because of this, we needed 5 network ports in one location of each room. The buildings were all full brick rooms and running network cables would have been expensive. I already had 1 port in each place, so we decided to put a 8-port HP managed switch in each room. Despite the project manager being asked to design the documentation for the installation company, I had to do it. Apparently he couldn't handle IP addresses in a spreadsheet. So I built it all up. What each device's IP was going to be, including the projectors and everything else. I then provide the spreadsheet to him. He told me it was not aligned as he wanted and I needed to fix that. I didn't have time and said the data is there. If you want it in a neater format you can change the fonts or colors yourself. He wasn't happy I wasn't doing it but didn't push it. 16 rooms were done in one holiday period, and to begin with only the projects worked via directed connected cables. The project manager during this time never left his desk, and when I asked or updates he would reply yep, all on task. After a week of this answer, and during another meeting near one of the rooms that according to the timeline should be near done was nowhere near, I asked the company. They said they hadn't seen the project manager at all, and are emailing in issues. I got the shits *, told him he had to do daily checks of their work and also to ensure that he is keeping on top of them. He wasn't happy but didn't really have any way of complaining about me. He did it, though I could tell he wasn't happy with the daily walks. He was not a thin man. In Australia this can be angry and cranky. Not just that you have diarrhea. Our switches were delayed arriving, so I couldn't set them up before install, and the AV company were given them without config and installed. So a few weeks later, after limited functionality, I then went through and configured all the switches one night. Config was as designed and everything seemed good and I went home. The next day I came to work and was met with angry staff from the 16 rooms that had nothing working. I apologized and jumped right onto it. I found the issues in minutes, and apologies for not testing more, and would have them working ASAP. I jumped into one room and checked the settings. They had meant to be in the range of 172.16.110.x. However, when I started looking at devices I saw that they were actually 172.16.10.x. Which, while not a used VLAN, was not the range the switch ports had been configured for. To be honest, I didn't look into it heavily. As the acting director of IT, I had way too much on my plate. My assumption without looking into it was that when the switches were not configured they were just letting anything pass through. Though once I set up the switches and configured default gateways and VLANs it blocked all traffic, happy to be proven wrong here. But the facts remains and was tested after the fact. Once VLANs were set it blocked the traffic. I called a meeting with the AV company and the project manager to figure out what had happened. At the same time my helpdesk team were running around changing settings, so that at least the rooms would work with direct connections, manually changing the switch settings on 2 ports, projector and Crestron, so they would go back to the weird communication method. In the meeting with the AV company and the PM, I asked why the right details hadn't been set, and the AV company was unsure as they had followed the very formatted Excel list and had done what was asked. I checked their printout, and it was not what I had sent him. The PM said it was what I had sent, but in a more readable format as I had just sent a plain table. I got my list and the PM/AV company's list, and the PM had changed it from what I had sent. The IP change had happened by the PM. He tried to blame my spreadsheet not being in the format he wanted, and I should have done it. I apologized to the AV company and asked them to please fix it and bill me the time difference. The AV company said that is fine, but asked if they could get my version of the spreadsheet since it was easier to read and understand. I organized a meeting with the executive and PM, and we went over the issue. At first the PM tried to have a go at me, stating my actions in the meeting have ruined any chances of him getting future work from that AV company. I said I am sorry. I pointed out his mistake. One of the executive laughed, and he got cranky. The full weight of the issue was placed on him, and not me, of course, and he was told that they were lucky they couldn't do it, but they wanted to charge him the additional hours to fix the mistake. Thankfully, a couple of months later his contract ended. He did ask if it would get renewed, and I said no way in hell. My advice was that we didn't need a PM, that money would be better spent on teachers. He wasn't happy. The executive even saw my stance, and didn't even ask me to farewell him. Let me talk to the president. Got a fun one. 3-second backstory. I work with the software on fancy-ass treadmills. Guess which ones? Winner gets nothing at all, and the memberships for said fancy treadmills, or sometimes bikes/elliptical/rowers. Anyways, lady calls in. She's apparently been back and forth for hours with our team, which is already a red flag cause she's got 4 cases, count them 4 recorded times she's been in contact with us, or the parts and service sister department. So she's had this issue, done just about everything, but the last time she did squat was a month or 2 ago. I start going through the troubleshooting steps, because I don't trust 2-plus-month-old tickets that only say did factory reset, waiting to see if it works. So she decides that she's not even going to consider working with me, that she'd rather throw a hissy fit cause we won't replace her $20, actually it's 50 to 75% of the cost of the $1,000 plus machine, built-in tablet, and by the way, the issue almost definitely wouldn't be fixed with a new console, and demand to talk to, and I quote, everyone. She demanded the president of the company's email, the second in command's, everyone. Now, I don't really bother knowing anyone's email who I don't directly work with or who I don't have a reason to have their email, so I have like 2 people's emails, well, 2 who have any authority that I don't have, and I'm not about to go digging for emails I'm not going to need, especially when I don't even know if I'm allowed to see them, let alone give them out. Anyways, she accused me of lying, and I quote, I'm not naive. Give me the email of the president, and I expect to be called by them no later than 10 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow morning. I probably did a no-no by just honestly ending the call right after that. But honestly, I don't really care. Let's not contact the desk and then wonder why nothing is happening. I need to get this off my chest because it's been happening a lot now after the holidays. I am a manager at a service desk which provides L1/L2 support. I have this one particular client that seems to have decided that raising their issue with the highest level of management they can find, instead of actually calling my team for help, is the way to go. The phrase just get it done has reared its ugly face a few times as well. So anyway, an executive had his password expire. They decided that calling the desk is not necessary, and instead went to their CTO. The CTO then proceeded to call our CEO. Our CEO then sent the request further down the management chain, until it reached me after like 2 more levels. I then promptly proceeded to remind them that we need a call from the user, so we can confirm the validity of the request, and essentially told them to bugger off. End result? It took about 2 hours between the time the user reported their issue to their CTO, and when a member of my team actually became aware that this issue exists. It then took a 5-minute phone call from the user to the desk to solve their issue. Also, I may have to have a meeting with the CTO/CEO on why we didn't just get it done. So, on an unrelated note, if anyone is looking for a mediocre tech with irrelevant management experience, please DM me.